Today's guest conversation is with the head baseball coach for the Wichita State University Shockers, Mr. Brian Green. Here's episode 40 of the Baseball Forward podcast. Coach Green, welcome to the Baseball Forward podcast. How are you, my friend?
Hey, how we doing? Great. Thanks for having the Shockers on this morning. Always fun to talk Shocker baseball and coaching, management, leadership, all that fun stuff. So got an hour before skill instruction this morning. So what a great way to spend it. So thanks for having us on.
You bet, man. It's an honor. And I know we spoke briefly offline, and I want to mention this. Boy, Wichita State baseball. To me, when all is right with Wichita State baseball, all is right in the baseball world. I know Wichita State for me holds a special place. I remember watching Wichita State Creighton in the '89 College World Series, and I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, I love this game so much." And that was one of my memories in my upbringing, in my destination for love with the game of baseball. So, Wichita State. Tell me a little bit about what's going on at Wichita State these days.
Wow. Well, I was a junior in high school in '89, and you know about the Shockers. I grew up in Southern California, Temecula, and I was a Titan fan. And we're going to play the Titans here in week 3 here in Wichita. We got a home and home and open. Anything that Coach Stevenson did, I'm just trying to hit the repeat and the reset and just follow that lead. But Wichita State, as a baseball fan, a baseball junkie that all of us are, Wichita State being good in college baseball is good for college baseball. It's great for it because there's such a dramatic history of 7 Omaha appearances and 1 national championship. And we have a thing called 714 for us Southern Californians. And 714, not the area code for Orange County, but 4 is 4 times the runners up that Coach Stevenson had. So he could have had actually 5 titles. He'll tell you that that LSU is a real thorn in his side. But anyways, no, when we walked in with my family a year and a half ago into this stadium, the house that Gene built and Brent Chemnitz, and you see the mural up with the drawings of the team meeting President Bush at the White House. And then you see all the history and Joe Carter and Dryford and Bluma. And I mean, there's so much history here. It's an exciting place to be. The alums are outstanding, and I've been in a few spots, and the alumni here are different. They want to win, but they're also extremely supportive. They're not competitive. They want to see this thing come back. So they're very helpful. And that's been great for us, myself included, being a non-Shocker, to come in as the head coach here. But what an honor to coach here. You can feel it in this community. This community's dying for this place to get back. The stadium speaks for itself. We've got a bunch of new things happening. We've got new lights coming. Our fans are going to be blown away this year, but new lights, new seats, fan zone down the line, a new deck in right field, a new lab. People have really jumped in to support and get it back. So first pitch banquet's a few weeks away. We're excited to show it off, but what an honor to coach at a place like this. This place, it reeks of tradition, and coaching at X Stadium, and no BS. Just when you coach here and you walk on that field and Coach Stevenson's up in his box, and when you score and he's waving the flag, it's pretty special if you're a college baseball guy.
Wichita State. I remember playing at Eck and walking out. It's a cathedral. It's a cathedral. Yeah. That's the way I would describe it. Is Eck Stadium is a cathedral. You walk in, man. It's towering up there. It is a special place to be. I'm curious. You being a Southern California guy, like Wichita State, like how the heck did we get a powerhouse baseball program in the middle of the country, in the middle of Kansas, in Wichita? How do you think that all came about?
Yeah, you see it, and Coach Stevenson is one of the monuments men. He's one of the Mount Rushmore of college baseball, and for us coming up, and we have jobs and we have careers because of the Gene Stevensons and the Skips and the Coach Datos and the Coach Fraziers and the Coach Polks and all these legends that all figured out that it's about a system and it's about a program and it's about program building. And you see that, and it's not just baseball. Coach Garrido, same thing in Fullerton. And you start researching all these coaches and you start seeing and hearing and feeling that it was all the same, and it was about program. And Coach Stevenson's got a great book, and it's called Wichita State Comes Back. And he tells the story of himself. And in 1977, when he took the job from the University of Oklahoma, Coach Davidson didn't lack confidence. He made a statement that said, we'll be in Omaha in 3 years. In the 1981 season, we'll be in Omaha. Well, he really laid off the pedal. They didn't get there till 82. It took him 4 years. He took the job in 77. They didn't have a team, a field, and anything.
Wow.
In 78, they build a field, and then he starts whittling away at building this stadium. But I would answer that question for the coaches watching in terms of program building, no matter what your level is, paying attention to fan experience, paying attention to facilities, paying attention to community support, community relations. That's how you're going to build it, and that's how we want to build it and bring it back. And being here is very special because I'm hearing all of those stories, and many of his supporters are still our supporters. And but how did he do it? Relentless with the fundamentals of his team on the field, relentless with the passion and expectation that you're going to win here, and it's just a matter of time. And then being relentless off the field that we're going to build a program, a stadium, a movement, a community. It's just awesome to be a part of it, and you can see it. And this place, it is Gene Stevenson and Brent Chemnitz. That's what it is. And we're honored to be a part of it. But he built it from scratch, from ground level. And it's Skip Bertman's The System, which Coach Bianco has taken on. It's what Coach Polk and Frazier did. It's these pioneers that really got it. And it wasn't just having a good team, but it was building a program.
You talk about, I'll say this, I'd be remiss. Coach Chemnitz, what a complete stud, what a legend too, deserves so much credit for what he's done what he did at Wichita State. So shout out to Coach Chemnitz. I've gotten the wonderful opportunity in the last year or so to become friends with Coach Gary Ward, and I get to spend time with Coach Ward. He's a great.
Same thing.
Yep. And you said something that really resonated with me. The Mount Rushmore, Gene Stevenson on that Mount Rushmore. Yes. Coach Ward, Coach Frick, all those guys are on the Mount Rushmore. Like, you sound to me like your energy. And again, I do my research. If I don't know the coach, you and I have never spoken, but man, I can just feel the energy from you. And I feel like you have this energy for the game of baseball. And from what I hear from the guys that I've talked to, former players, guys that have played against you, they say your energy is unparalleled. What gives you that energy? Is it your love for the game of baseball?
Well, my energy is derived from point blank. It's the relationships that I have with people and players and my family and my coaches and our coaches. But, and then when you have a relationship with, for example, here at Wichita State, I've always been an energy guy. I love what I do. I can't believe that I get paid to actually coach college baseball. It's ridiculous. But it is a job and it is a profession, and we take it very seriously. But, at the end of the day, I want to be a part of a championship program. I want to win a championship. I want to go to the College World Series, and I've never done it. I've been to 10 NCAA regionals. I've been to super regional or a World Series at the Division III level or at the Final Four at the JUCO. Never been to the big dance, and I've knocked on it so many times. And I respect the fact that it's not easy and it's hard, but the chase is what makes it really fun. But I get energy from the chase, and I've been so fortunate. I've been at a lot of unbelievable programs, but to be with Coach Hill at San Diego, it was our first championship at San Diego. So to be on the ground floor of that first one, to be with Coach Savage at UCLA when we won 15 games in our first year, and to be a part of building that thing into what it become, and or Kentucky when I got there, and to be a part of Gary Henderson's staff, and to be essentially the program in the SEC with the worst facilities and the worst weather, and to have that chip on your shoulder, or go to New Mexico State, where you don't go to Las Cruces, New Mexico, unless you have to, and I'm an alum there, So I love being an Aggie, but I get energy on chasing things that haven't been done. This is a much different experience. This is a place where it has been done. And not in the 60s or the 70s, but a place that it's still extremely relevant. But it's also been 2009 is the last on paper regional Wichita State's been to. So that's a 15-year chase that we get to do. I get my energy on bringing things back. I really get my energy on following up on things that you say. So I think it's really important as a coach. Gave a presentation at this a couple of days ago at the I-70 clinic and talked about it's not arrogance or confidence. It's a belief in what you want to do. But more importantly, in whatever you want to do, I believe, get out there and send it out there. This is what we're going to do here. Create some instant accountability for yourself. And I think that'll create some real energy for you in terms of the chase. But at the true end of the day, trust in the relationships that I build with coaches and players give me tremendous energy. Just like, when we're in a situation where maybe the energy is sapped or we don't have a great vibe, I have to work really hard. That's when it becomes a job. So I really chase the relationships. I think that's the most important thing.
Wow. Talking with Coach Brian Green of Wichita State University on the Baseball Forward podcast today. Very simple question. Why baseball? Like, what was it about baseball that captured you? Was it early on? Was it something that you knew, boy, this is different? What was it about baseball?
I remember a couple of things. The team component, no question. But I think there's a couple of things, and we all remember how we feel, not necessarily the facts or the figures of things that happen in our life. But I think back to when I was at Riverside Community College as a player, as a freshman, playing for Dennis Rogers. We're doing one of his camps, and Dennis was one of those camp masters, and we had 15 stations and very organized, very detailed. And I remember being down coaching a youth T station, and Dennis saying, you've got 10 minutes on a station. You've got to figure out a 1 minute opener, a 1 minute, bring them back and review. And you got 7.5 minutes in between to instruct. So figure out your 3 bullets and figure them out pretty quickly. I mean, talk about unbelievable coaching advice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we coach our team every day. There's an open, there's a review at the end, and there's an instruction in the middle. But I remember the feeling that I got from just a personal standpoint, the feeling that I got of connecting with kids that were 8 years old on the tee and talking about who knows what information I was spewing out at that time. But I remember the feeling that I got of how much I enjoyed that. And I will point to that moment of saying, I really think that I want to coach. And I've always drawn from that remembrance. And I think that's one. And then two, as a player, being a part of those teams that when the energy of the team takes on its the personality of its own, where you'll fight for each other, you'll get in fights, you'll backs against the wall, that feeling of being a part of a team. And I think that goes to my core with trust and relationships again. When a complete group of 30 come together and we all have each other's backs, is a very special thing to be a part of, which is very difficult to find in the corporate world. So I think those would be the two things as to why baseball or sports, but baseball in particular, our game is beautiful. Sarcasm exists. It's a part of it. You have to be able to move on very quickly. It's mentality, but then it's laugh. It's crying's okay. It's such a wonderful game. So that for me is why baseball.
I love hearing that. Players love playing for you. It's noticeable. And there's a word that comes to my mind when I'm listening to the last, your answer is loyalty. Like loyalty comes to my mind when I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm like, boy, this guy seems like a Coach Green. I want to run through a wall for him. I feel like he's loyal to me. I feel like he understands what my mission is. Does loyalty is what I'm saying? Does that resonate? Is loyalty, because we live in a world of transfer portal. We live in a world of instant gratification, and what I'm getting from you is the opposite of that. Am I right in my sentiment? I know you're not going to say I'm wrong, but how right am I in that sentiment?
Well, you're really right, and I was like, boy, you got me pegged. I've had players say, Coach Green, you hold grudges. And I remember a player back in Kentucky, if he ever gets a hold of this, he's probably a raving success right now. And but one of the players, and he mentioned that, and then and studying myself years later, and with my why and my Colby Index personality assessment and those things, but trust and the relationships are number one to me. And and when loyalty or trust are broken, I can't get over it. It's very challenging for me. But I think that brings up such a great point and great question. In terms of being very specific to ourselves, but in the portal and those types of things, I think it's very important that you don't take anything personal. It's situational, not personal. But I think as a coach, I think it's so important to express who you are and express it. For us, being in the college baseball world, we get to sell and we get to recruit. So when we're recruiting and selling, the sell is, this is who we are. Is there alignment? Do you want to be a part of that? And I'm very upfront with our families about that trust and the relationships that we have are everything to me. When it doesn't go right with a player in a family, or when it doesn't go right with maybe another coach, or when it doesn't go right specifically with a team, I will always point back to that in the relationships. And I truly believe that, because it cues everything. The loyalty, the relationship they have with their hitters. That's what's going to enable you to make impacts with them. They're going to believe in what you're saying more so than, I'm not sure if you know what you're talking about, or if you truly have my best interests at heart. And that's where it starts and ends. So I think really to veer that into something really important for me on a personal level is that our coaches have got to know, and with crystal clarity, number one, what I'm about, what the organization is about, but then they've got to go out and sell that and believe in that. And if they're not doing that, then we've got to work really hard, and I've got to work really hard that we create a staff that is aligned within the goals and the expectations of the organization. I'm getting a little more corporate on that, but on the personal level, it is entirely about that. And if we can pull together and create a group of kids and coaches, they're all on the same page. And you mentioned this when we first got on board before we hit the record button, and that is your mission statement and our mission statement. Our vision and our mission have got to be aligned, but it starts personally. And I think a big mistake that coaches make is that I think loyalty and trust is big for a lot of us. I think it's it's a very important thing. And when our loyalty gets broken, it's very hard to overcome that. For me, it's impossible. I'm out. Now I'll be phony and fake, and I can do my best job, be professional. But I think it's so critical that we express that. And when you're making hires or bringing people on board into your organization, I really think that it's about loyalty, trust, relationships. That's where it starts. I think sometimes we make mistakes, players too, in recruiting, that we attack skill first. Obviously, you got to have skill. You got to be talented. But on the coaching side of things, you can check all those boxes on the skill piece. But if you don't have that loyalty and trust, you might be having new people come into your organization a lot. So I think that's why you see a Coach Claggett and myself. We've been together for 8 years. We're very close. I think that's why you see texts with players back from UCLA or even 2002 San Diego that we're still in connection with each other, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
That's right. Yeah. Talking with Brian Green of Wichita State University today, the Shockers. Man, I used to love that name, the Shockers. Hey, interesting question, because I want to just in this the flow of this conversation, I want to know how being a girl dad, what it's like being a girl dad as a baseball coach. So, Coach has 2 daughters, and I there's an element of empathy. What's it like having 2 daughters and being a baseball coach?
It's the best. And it is the best. I also know that there's something chemically within me that if my wife, Becky, and I had 15 kids, I think we would have 15 daughters. I really do. And I think it's because when I come home and turn it off and become dad, there's still a part of the thing that you can't turn off, and that is the holding of accountability and getting after it and making sure you're chasing your dreams that we're doing with all these players. But being a girl dad for a coach, I think it's a true treasure and gift. I never had the desire. This might sound crazy, but that's what I honestly, genuinely wanted. I get my fix. And I'm stuck in 18 to 22 every year. But then I also get 8-year-olds at camp and 10-year-olds and then high school kids at camp. I get a real good fix of having relationships with young baseball players and little guys on the field. But you don't have that opportunity with a girl thing. So that completely gives me a totally different perspective in life, and a rationality that I have to find rationality in at home with 3 females. And then, of course, a female dog as well. And I think we were able to sneak a male cat in there. So I think that's our bravado at home. But it's a very different experience, and it's a great experience for me. I'm a guy that I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I think that helps me at home. But I think it creates great life balance. I go home, I get the girls. It's not the environment that we have here. It's much different. It's a Disneyland, makeup,
wow,
TikTok, Sephora, Ulta, the
Wow.
beach, all those things that you're not going to get. So that's a great question. I've never been asked that. And I'm glad you asked it, because I truly, genuinely, I think it's something that as a baseball coach or any coach or an athletic endeavor, I think it's a real treat to have that, because it's a complete 180 in life when you go home.
Because I'm sitting here looking at it from a recruit's perspective. Any players that dream of playing at Wichita State, that want to play at the level that you guys are at. Boy, you said it's about relationships, but it's about knowing who you're dealing with when you get there. And I think the fact that, boy, sitting where I sit now, I think one of the things that I learned most about baseball, that if I could do over and do a little bit better, I wish I would have had more balance. And the reason why I ask about the daughters is man, I can't imagine it. I can't imagine you being allowed to be selfish in that environment. And I'm guessing that just makes you a better coach. With having the daughters, what do you think if I was asking your daughters this, what do you think they would say? Hey, what's the coolest thing about your dad being a coach? What do you think they would say?
I think they would just like the fact that, I'm doing a podcast like this, or get to coach in a stadium like that. I think that would be the thing that they would say is probably the coolest thing about being the coach, is just that. But, like in any situation, when I come home, I'm dad, and we want to joke and text and tweet. I've got no juice at home. Who's kidding who? I mean, we win 3 championships in a row, Wichita State. I'm the dang mayor of the city of Wichita. When I go home, I am just idiot dad, and they're going to crack their jokes at me and take their pot shots at me. And my wife will, if ever we have success, especially like within certain cities, my wife will make absolute sure that something's knocked down and I get lowered. So
that's right. That's
yeah. There's not a lot. There's not much going on ego at home at the Green household.
As it should be, and that is awesome. Talking with Coach Green of Wichita State today. All right, so let's shift to the parallels you're making into the business world. You're the CEO of Wichita State Baseball. You're the CEO of Wichita State Baseball. Let's start with stressful. What's the most stressful thing about your day-to-day life as the head baseball coach at Wichita State University?
Yeah, I think there's probably 2 big stressors when you get to become a head coach. And it's such a fascinating thing with regards to leadership. And, you get opportunities to be in the lead seat by being great at being an assistant. And so you jump into that lead seat, and you get your job because you're a tremendous recruiter, or you get your job because you're a tremendous hitting coach, or football, a great coordinator. But you're in charge of your area. You're in charge of the hitters. You're in charge of the pitchers. You're in charge of recruiting. And then you get into that lead seat, and then it entirely becomes about, well, all of a sudden. And here was my transition to answer your question in a little bit lengthy manner, but I think there's relevance to it. But in my arena, which I get the job from Kentucky to New Mexico State, and we've got really good offenses going in Kentucky, and we're doing this. And AJ had just won the Golden Spikes Award in 2014, AJ Reed. So I get into that lead seat, and my focus is still down here. And you've got your assistant coaches, or in the corporate world, you've got your managers, and you've got your assistant directors. And so I think it took me anyways. It takes time to understand that it is about the relationships with your players, but more importantly, it's about the relationships with your coaching staff. So to answer your question, I think there's 2 stressors. Number one stressor for me, and I'm really working hard at this as I enter year 11 of being a head coach, and that is to be a much better manager of the staff, and to make sure that I'm here for them without burning myself out. And I don't mean here for them on a personal level, which of course we are. But we just got done doing some training, and we did a thing called our 3x3. And thanks to a very special leader and partner of mine, and that's Jerry Lujan with a group called Elevation 180. But we talked a lot about bottlenecking, and bottlenecking myself and bottlenecking our staff. And for example, Coach Claggett, his bottleneck is very simple. Have the best pitching coach and pitching staff in the league. Dominate your scouting reports. And then be a great assistant head coach / recruiter in box number 3. But don't get your mind off of anything else. the biggest stress or coach over catch. Number one, dominate our catchers, dominate our recruiting, and dominate being a great first base coach. Don't worry about anything else. And we try to bring that thinking down from our coaches into our players. That is a massive stressor for me to make sure that I am giving them the resources and the time. Because as a head coach, I'm all over the map, and I'm an energy guy, and I have a hard time sitting still. So I have to make sure that I'm giving them what they need to be great at their position. Because if everybody's doing what they need to do, in theory, we're going to be great. Number one, and then number two, I think a big stressor for myself as a head coach, and I think for a lot of us, is to maintain and to create clarity of the culture and to make sure that we're keeping it. That 80-20 rule, where you're focusing on 20% of the guys who maybe have a little drama or having a tough time, and all of your focus goes there, and losing sight of the bulk of your team. That's a massive stressor for me, and involved in that is probably number three. And that is to make do on what I said that we are going to do. That drives me every day. I wake up in the middle of the night. I think about it before I go to bed. And when I wake up in the morning, it's, Kevin Saul gave us this unbelievable opportunity to be at Wichita State. We sat up on that podium in the press conference and said, we're going to do this, this, and this. That would probably be stressor number one. And I think that's on a personal level, but is to do what we said we're going to do, and I think that's why it's very important when you're going to make a vision statement, a mission statement, your core values, or what you intend on doing, your intention statement, that they're based on my opinion on personality things and program branding things and trait things. We're going to chase Omaha, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to chase making this program great again, and here's how we're going to do it. But the stressor, I think, for the head coach is to just defend what you say. I don't want to be full of it. I want to get up on stage and say, we're going here. And then I want to make do on it to the people. And that's what drives me. That's probably where I get my energy from, because it gives you something to wake up for and chase every day, and to create a circle of people that believe in you. I think it's a very, very hard thing to do.
Boy, I've never been a head coach, so I can't imagine the pressure of carrying that for everyone. But boy, it takes a unique individual to do that. We've circled back to mission statement quite a bit, and I want to make this relevant for the younger audience. The younger audience, because Coach, man, I'm 45. I didn't understand how important, truly how important goals were, and understanding yourself and having an identity in yourself. Mission statement. So to the younger guys out there listening to this, what is a mission statement, and how do I create a mission statement for myself as I'm growing up as a baseball player?
Yeah, we're going to go for an hour now, but
let's go.
This is what I'm pounding this to our program. And more importantly, I'm pounding this to our coaching staff.
Yes.
If Coach Green is going to sit up on the podium and say, hey, we're going to play baseball in Wichita in June. And that is our vision. It's very simple. Now, with regards to what is your vision, when a family asks Coach Green, what's your vision for the program? There's a 10-minute story. And within the story of everything that it means to play baseball in Wichita in June, which means we're playing baseball at EC in a regional. But that's our vision. That's where we're going. And that's very important. But where you're going is your goal. Your mission statement is just how you're going to do it. And I can tell you point blank what ours is, because we talk about it all the time. And if I'm doing my job, the coaches can spit it out. Our players can spit it out. The community knows what it is.
Love it.
If you have something to wake up for every day, then I ask every recruit that sits on that couch.
Wow.
Depending on if they're a senior in high school, if it's a junior college guy, or if it was a portal guy, or whatever it is, where do you see yourself? And more importantly, where are you going to be in 5 years? Now, for us, in our program with Wichita State and the Baseball Factory, the expectation is you better say professional baseball. And in fact, the good ones are saying, well, I'm in AAA, or, I'm in big league camp, and they're very clear. And you're like, oh, nice. Yeah. So that you're clear on your vision, but the mission statement, the how part, how are you going to get there? What are you going to do to make your vision a reality? So for us, we created a mission statement, and I believe in working in the power threes. I believe in the power threes in anything because we can remember it. And if we can, the swing is busted up into three components of the swing. The offensive approach, there are three components to an at bat. An opposing pitcher, you can basically jump or bucket them into basically three. That's how my brain works. So that's my system for myself. But our mission statement is very simple, and it's a good one, and I love it. But think about this. Our mission is to inspire our city. Now take that.
Our city.
Inspire our city.
Okay.
So we're going to play baseball in June in Wichita. That's where we're going. How are we going to get there? We're going to inspire our city. Now think about that, because it's very broad, but it is beautiful. Let's talk about that, guys. And now we get into the beef and the meat of, okay, what does it really mean to inspire your city? Well, our mission statement is that, and instead of having this very long one for us, although you can do that, of course we can. I'm dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds. I want them to be able to remember something very, very simple. So on that, what's going to inspire a city? HBP, guys laying out, hustle, community engagement, being a good citizen, being a great student, being competitive, being tough. I mean, we're in Wichita, Kansas. This is not Hollywood, and this is not this ain't SoCal Flash, double tape, double wrist tape, batting glove in the pocket. That's and right. On the hands and sticking out of the hat. This is hat forward, tucked in, American flag, farm, blue collar, conservative. Oh. I mean, hey, that's a pretty fun place to coach in the game of baseball.
That's
where
right.
It requires a ton of toughness, where you get beat down and beat up every day, and you have to just get back up, and you're not worried about how you look or what anyone thinks about you. So we take our mission statement, but then we turn that into a bunch of bullets and pillars that are going to keep that up. The foundation of, for us, the acronym of that, we're going to trust our process. And what does that really mean? Well, it means we're going to be competitive. It means we're going to be professional. It means we're going to be relentless. It means we're going to tell the truth and be trustworthy. We're going to be accountable. And, so we have our acronym, but talking to the young player, I just gave a speech on this a couple of days ago on vision. It was a very corporate presentation, but it's not. I'm trying to relate that and get that to our players. Guys, where are you going? How are you going to get there? And what are the focal points for you to get there? How are you going to do it? And more importantly, get out and say it. Because if you say it, you're accountable. And if you're accountable, then you got something to chase, and that moves into your mission statement. But for young players, I'm going to be a Division I baseball player as a freshman. Well, okay. And I also weigh 110 pounds right now. Okay. Yep. Here we go. Great. Is that right? Go if you want to do the research and find out how many guys are sub 165, and if it's power 5 or sub 1 or underneath 180 as a freshman and they play, find that guy. There's not many of them, and if they do, they're running 6'3", 6'4".
That's right.
So, the reality of the situation for anybody is set your goals. Where are you going? How do you want to get there? And then get real serious about it. If I'm a young player, and we talked about this earlier off camera, but if I could have gone back, the reality component for me as a player, I wish I would have listened to it, learned more about it. Hey, I'm slow twitch. I need to start working on my quickness. Hey, I'm not tough enough. Hey, I'm making too many excuses. All of those things. Or as a coach, hitting that reset button and go, if you could have done it different when you were 23, I tell this story all the time, but if you could have done anything in Southern California when you were 23, 24 years old, what would you have done? And I would have said, well, I would have gathered up enough confidence to walk into Cal State Fullerton with Coach Garrido and knocked on the door and asked, Coach, would it be okay if I just sit over in the corner of your office, don't say a peep, and go buy you coffee every day and just watch what you do for a year for free? That stuff's, those days are a little bit lost. A lot of times in these days, the 25-year-old assistant coaches, they've got it mapped out, but they're going to be the head coach at LSU when they're 29. And so I wish, the reality component, but for the young player, I love to talk about it because I think it is so important. But what do you want? Where are you going? How are you going to get there? Spend time in thought, write it down, and let everybody else know about it. Share it. You'll create accountability for yourself. And then get people around you or maybe aren't going to agree with you and tell you that you're wrong. Ask them why. And maybe they'll give you some real things that you need. Like you need to get better at this, this, and this. And then go to work on it. Because at the end of the day, who cares? If you got a goal and you want to meet it, then go meet it.
Yep, that's right. Talking with Brian Green, Wichita State University. Coach, I got to show you. This right here, this is a laminated sheet. These are I call them January non-negotiables, okay? And I'm not going to get into it, but you're firing me up because I feel like, all right, I'm doing the right things, right? Like it's so important for the young men to listen to what you're saying because what he's saying is right in it. What do they say? You'll hit it every time. If you don't aim at anything, you'll hit it every time, right? And that makes so much sense to me. The word that comes to my mind right now that I want to ask you about, since you're so mission and goal focused, is distractions. Like how important is it for a man or a woman on a mission to eliminate distractions and to identify distractions?
Boy, that's an awesome question. So I would tell you that, for example, and I know I'll give you a great story, and I think it's relevant to answering the question. I remember in 2000, and I think it was 06. I'm at UCLA. I remember this vividly. I'm in my kitchen in Long Beach, Belmont Shore. Can't believe I ever left that place. That was, wow, awesome place.
Yep.
I don't know if it's BlackBerry, probably was. If it was computer, I don't even remember what we were looking at. But blogs were coming out. And back in the day then, 15, 20 years ago, these blogs, these chat rooms, it wasn't Twitter and it wasn't instant. It was, you'd search on a topic and then you'd go in and then there was a few things more. And they still have these things. But I remember I saw that some, anonymous, of course, a parent, but had taken a real good shot at me as a hitting coach. And and I remember first time I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
Couldn't breathe.
Wow.
I mean, you talk about a jolt, right? And that's a good one for me with my girls and me at least understanding that when you're seeing somebody who maybe says something about you when you're 14 years old, you're not equipped for that. I wasn't equipped for it at 30.
Wow.
And so I wasn't familiar with it or ready for it. And it knocked me down like, whoa, somebody actually thinks that I'm not the greatest. That doesn't make any sense. Everything I do just turns to magic, just gold. So to answer that question, I wasn't equipped for it. Here I am 11 years now as a head coach, and in no way, shape, or form do I have all the answers, but I'm on a journey. And I just feel like for all of us, with regards to distractions, what really are distractions? I mean, what really are they in the world that we live in? Somebody taking a shot at you on social media, that's a certain distraction. There are real distractions. Your family. My dad passed away 4 years ago. I was a very average coach for a couple of years, in my opinion. I couldn't get over it. Those are a little bit different. Those are hard. You're going to need people in your corner to help you out, and defend you when you're not at your best. But I really believe that with regards to distractions, the controllable distractions,
I like
the
that.
social media, your lack of sleep, your poor nutrition, your negativity and how you view things, those are all controllables. And I think distractions, 3/4 of them, in my opinion, maybe a higher percentage, are controllable distractions, things that are really irrelevant. There's Jerry Seinfeld's got a quote somewhere in Facebook that I've seen that he says, and some version of the quote says, at the end of the day, when the thing is all over, the only thing that's ever going to matter is, did you feel like you made a great effort at doing what you wanted to do? And the people that you care about are in your corner. The rest of it is totally irrelevant. And I really agree with that and believe in that. So, anybody who, for me personally, I don't get distracted very often. My distractions are different. My distractions are that I don't stay on things. I bounce, I zig, I zag. I drive my assistants crazy. So I try to communicate that with them. But as a player, the distractions that the players are going to have, that we try to eliminate for them. A lot of them are based on negativity, whether it be somebody taking a shot at you or whether it be your internal thoughts, your unaccountability, or the controllables. And again, I take it back to nutrition, sleep, being in great shape. You know, I've got a responsibility as a coach, and I'm not there right now. I'm getting there. But when we play baseball in May and June, my energy better be absolutely through the roof. So I'm sharp and I'm making good decisions. That means I better be paying attention to my body. That's a responsibility that I have to our team.
Yeah.
That would be an elimination of a distraction. So I'm not fatigued, which is a distraction. So again, to the players, I think distractions can be eliminated if you're absolutely specific on the goals that you have in mind, and nothing else can get in your way. And and for us as baseball people, all the great players, especially the ones that maybe weren't the high-end, expectation player for us, Kyle Bradish or Joey Ortiz or Nick Gonzalez at New Mexico State, 3 guys in the big leagues. You know, nobody recruited them. We got Bradish in June. Coach Mangrum found him. I mean, he was a 3 guy at a high school level, and Ortiz 140 pounds, and Nick was a walk-on. So it's like
crazy.
Yeah, but those guys were. Nick Gonzalez was an animal as a freshman. He didn't care about what his teammates thought. He cared about what he wanted with his family. He had tunnel vision. He's a 7th pick overall. A pretty awesome story.
Man, he is a stud. Talking with Coach Brian Green of Wichita State University on the Baseball Forward podcast. Coach, a couple more questions for you. A lot of parents probably going to listen to this, and a lot of parents want to know kind of your thought process just on their players in general. So I think it would be extremely valuable to just for you to give some general advice to parents of up and coming ball players.
Yeah, that's a great one. You know, and going back to our girl dad question, but you know, it gives me a very good perspective in knowing that, you know, if somebody were to do something negatively to Emily or to Zoe, you know, the passion and the just where I lose my brain because those are your kids. And I think I have a very good perspective of that because I've got a mom she's wherever I live, she's going to find a second home in that area and follow every baseball game that we do. And she's very special to me, especially since we lost dad. And, but my mom still has opinions on my high school and junior college and Division I. I played when I finally was able to communicate to mom. I wasn't good enough. I didn't work hard enough. My mom still has it in me that, you know, there were politics involved in me not playing in junior college baseball still. And she'll go to her grave with it.
Love it. Good job, Mom.
And that's good for me. It really is, because I laugh at it. Number one, I still remind her of it. But I think that perspective is good for me that my mom has that, because at the end of the day, parents are parents.
That's right.
The parent's job is to protect their child. And I think the coach has to respect that. And I think the coach has to respect the fact that in understanding that, there's a level sometimes of rationality, you know, or reality that just plainly doesn't exist. Because at the end of the day, even if my son hit 050 in the fall, he should be given a chance, because all he deserves is a chance. And when he gets his chance, you don't know the real player that I know. Well, this is how parents think. Yep. The coach is based on winning and losing. So he's going to base a lot of things on performance. And then he's going to project performance based on competitiveness or performance.
Sure.
But going into the high school level for the parent, I think such an important thing. What would be a great parental thing, you know, players, when they come play for us, it's not on one hand. It's like, just how many fingers are you going to choose where the player has been told you have a weakness in this arena, or you need to improve in this area, or you're not very good in this area. Kids don't hear that. So when they come to college, you tend to freak out when the coach gets on them, you know, because it's new. And I think we have to understand that. How can you help your son at a younger age? It's all about having fun. It's not about putting pressure on him to perform and thinking about, you know, all of those events that you took him to, and you want to get the payback for his scholarship. Can you let your son talk and can you teach him to talk in recruiting environments like this? Coaches get really scared when the parents do all the talking and the player's not saying a word, because you're going to need that guy to talk for you when he gets here, number one. But two, I just think reality. I think if you can ever draw the line between being a parent and being somebody who's an observer, I remember Emily coming home one day and she said she didn't play at all. And she had been brought up to the varsity of her volleyball team as a freshman. And she got to go to the playoffs. And she sat on the bench the entire time. She didn't play 1 point. She sat on the bench. And she said, "Dad, what'd you think?" And I said, "I didn't think you were very good on the bench today." She goes, "What? What do you mean?"
Wow.
I said, "Well, honey, you didn't play, but there's a lot of value you could have provided there.
Wow.
You know, when you can get off the bench, you can really make an impact to your coach and to yourself, and it'll put you into the game more." She goes, "Okay." And she, the next day there was, Emily's not, going to go from, and then all of a sudden, that's not her, but it was a little bit different. And I was really proud of her for that. But I think things like that, it's not all about batting average. It's not all about performance. It's just about the greatest question I think a parent could ever ask their son or daughter after a competitive environment or arena would be, did you provide value to the team?
Wow.
Because and I know we want scorers, but we also want defenders, and we also want bench people. And I think that's what drives culture and drives impact and drives winning is, and that's the biggest thing that we try to make sure our players understand is, look, I'm fighting for my life here. I got to win. That's my job, and we have moved into a professional arena. People are getting paid, and there's contracts, and there's probably going to be buyouts, all these things. But at the end of the day, you're based on performance, but performance, a lot of coaches, performance is going to be based on culture, because culture is going to drive performance. So what value did you provide? And then when the players are struggling, be honest with them. I think that's really valuable for players at the high school level to get better.
I hear this, Coach, and it amazes me that more parents don't get it. And again, well-intentioned, nothing wrong. Like, I get it. They're trying to protect. I'm a parent. But I listen to the best of the best guys like you coaching at the highest level. Parents, I want you to hear this. These guys are hired as the CEOs to run these mega programs. And I hear you guys say relatively the same thing. And it's always personal accountability to the player. Quit pointing fingers, start pointing fingers at yourself and figure out what you can do better. And I feel that is so valuable, because the earlier the players can learn the personal accountability, the sooner they can become the best version of themselves.
Yeah. We when we had our check-in meetings over the break, and I put one particular slide up every meeting that we had with our Zooms. And in one of those slides, there were two things that we would say, but I'll just give you the first one. And that is such an important concept to what you said. And that is that everything is your fault.
Wow.
And I just think if you can, it's very valuable for me. That helps me. Everything in our arena is my fault. And if everybody in the organization is thinking that way, and even though fault is a negative word, there's nothing wrong with that. And I give that to our players, but everything is your fault. And also, if you're an All-American, it's your fault. And if you're a high draft, it's your fault. But it's one word. Either way, we are in control of what we do. And I just think the concept of we are in control, because we truly are. Nobody's going to, well, Coach, I couldn't hit, because of where I am. Do you have a basement? Yes. Do you have a mattress? Yes. Do you have a tennis ball? Yes. Then you can do work.
Yes, sir.
And I just think that in that arena, that is, to your point, yes, but personal accountability is number one for all of us. And that's something that we have to start hammering early on. But at the college level, you're trying to weed that out in the recruiting process, and starting with the families, and, trying to bring in people that are aligned with the vision, the mission, the goals of the organization. And, those are our goals. That happens to be my thing as the CEO of Wichita State. We're going to be a relationship-driven program. We're going to be driven by our goals, our mission, and our core values. We're going to live into them every day. And I'm going to put a lot of stock into coaching staff culture, which is going to move down into player culture. And when that's off, we're probably not going to be very successful. And if we get it right, then we'll have good things, and good things will happen late in the season.
I got to ask you quick. What's the spring outlook for the Wichita State Shockers this year?
We're excited. We were picked to finish second by the coaches. That was, I think that's the highest we've been in the American. And it's, as we enter into year two, we we were really appreciative of that with the other coaches in the league respecting our program.
Sure.
But when we look at it, we've got a very challenging non-conference schedule. We go to McNeese State, we go to Hawaii, and then it's Fullerton, Missouri State, Louisiana Tech. And that's, of course, with Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Kansas State, Nebraska in the midweeks.
Boy.
Everything driven towards putting us into a position to be really ultra competitive come conference time. But we're excited. You know, we bring back 7 players that started for us positionally: catcher, first, second, short, third, left, DH.
Like that.
Did really good in the portal. The staff did a great job in junior college recruiting. Bring back 2/3 guys that started for us last year, whether it be weekend or midweek, and then a couple of portal guys that were starters 2 years prior on the team that they left, took a little bit of a vacation like 33 other players did when I got the job here that were in the portal. And we brought some of those same players that left the program. They wanted to come back. They heard good things. So our expectations are really high. The league's great. Tulane's been in the regionals twice in a row. East Carolina's East Carolina.
Ooh.
You've got Florida Atlantic, Rice, UAB, UTSA is really tough. It's a really fun league. Memphis, you know, Coach Reiser is going to be in his second year, and it's really competitive. Fun cities, by the way, if you're a recruiter or parent. It's fun we get to go to Boca and Memphis, in Louisiana. We get to go to NOLA, or you get to come to Wichita. So it's fun. We have high expectations. We really do. You know, like I said, we're chasing one thing, and that's June in Wichita. And every decision that we make is going to be based upon chasing that goal and making that goal potentially happen.
I gotta get this in too. Somebody told me something about an RV. You in an RV, living in an RV or sleeping in an RV. What do you got on that, Coach?
Well, it's a long story, but it's a short story. And the bottom line is I drove it across the country from Pullman. And yeah, I did live in it in the summer for a couple months. You'll see it parked out in right field. I've got a vision. And, you know, when we talk about program vision, if we're going to play baseball here in Wichita in June, that's not just having a good team on the field. That is selling beer and booze. That is having tailgating, and that is great seats, and it's fan experience and great for children. And it's also a tailgate zone. So for me, I started that in New Mexico State. We had a lot of success with it, took it to Pullman, and now here we are in Wichita, Kansas. It's Wichita, Kansas, for heaven's sakes. This is RV heaven. So
that's right.
We started it last year. You can come out and camp in our right field area. That gets you a ticket onto the right field pavilion, where you can drink all the beer you want and be loud, do all that fun stuff. So that's it. So yeah, so we've got an RV program here. We're going to build that thing, but I love the culture. Yeah.
Coach Brian Green, Wichita State University. I need Wichita State to be in the World Series because that'll make my life better. So I appreciate you taking the time talking with us today, Coach, and we will look forward to watching you guys this spring.
Thank you guys so much for this. What a great podcast, and very valuable to your fans and parents and players. But this was a A+ conversation. So thanks so much.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Coach Green.
All right.
We will talk to you soon.